Hi, I'm Pete with Digital Strategic Services, and one of the areas that we found quite interesting in 2008 was just how the Barack Obama campaign really leveraged the power of social media, Web 2.0, participation. The campaign clearly focused not only on getting donations, but every possible entry point. They realized that everyone who joined the site had a contribution, whether it was downloading software to make phone calls, or whether it was printing out collateral, so to speak, related to the political campaign. And I think there was also a recognition that even the lightest contribution could ultimately upsell to a donation. The campaign also very effectively leveraged the power of mobile devices, instant messaging. They were able to mobilize a lot of consumers in a short period of time, and I dare say they really embodied many of the ideals about the potential of digital that we talk about all the time, and it really came to the fore in the campaign. What will be interesting to monitor looking forward is how well a lot of that plays out into the government infrastructure. Will we see leaner, faster moving government bureaucracy, so to speak, or is that unique only to political campaigns? Time will tell. We also learned a lot by monitoring the Olympics, especially the way the major network sponsoring the Olympics, NBC, leveraged cross-platform synergy, enabled consumer-generated media, fed the conversation, provided currency to the influencers out there, and unlike previous Olympics, we really saw a large percentage of consumer attention, visitor attention, focused on the online platform, not at the expense of TV, but often in concert. And there's a lot of really important lessons that brands could take away in the context of planning for their big next TV campaign, even the Super Bowl. But again, a good example of cross-platform integration and a sign of things to come in terms of the way we do digital. We remained impressed with Apple Computer. Apple has really established a new principle around services, the new marketing. We saw that with the greeters when you walk into the store. It looks like something that may have a high cost, but in fact it really is something that helps convert people to sales. They've also figured out how to take historic pain points such as customer service and turn that Genius Bar into an incredible marketing opportunity. And if you analyze conversation, you'll consistently find that people talk about those moments of truth where they're interacting with the Genius Bar representative. So again, taking things that we typically associate with pain and turning it into an opportunity. So I think that really continued to be a big inspiration for marketers in 2008. Intuit, one of the largest software providers, taught us a lot of important lessons around online community at a couple different levels. Again, Intuit actually has GM level executives that oversee communities that have upwards of 500,000 members. And what's so interesting about these communities is that upwards of 90% of questions that consumers have about the software are answered by other consumers, many of which Intuit actually credentials as uber experts on the platform. The chairman of Intuit, Scott Cook, refers to this as user contribution systems. In fact, he wrote a cover story in Harvard Business Review in October talking about how one of the real big ideas in Web 2.0 social media is how companies start to leverage consumers and users as net contributors, as a free employee workforce, if you will. And we've got some pretty good learning from Intuit. And from what I understand, from some of my contacts there, we'll see even more interesting developments coming in 2009. As books go, there's a lot of great reading material, and I won't toot my own horn on that front, but I will make a recommendation for a book that's just about to be released that I had the pleasure to read, our other team members as well, called The Ownership Quotient, written by HBS professor Jim Heskett. And to some extent, he builds on a lot of the themes that we're reading about in the blogosphere and on Twitter about the power of employee advocacy as a major contributor to customer success. And Heskett looks into some of the more celebrated examples like Southwest and JetBlue and others where employee advocacy is really moving the needle. And what's so interesting about that point for those of us that study social media is that we know that social media is really opening up the opportunity space around employees getting involved, participating, solving problems for customers and the like. So the ownership quotient, we think, takes a lot of the thinking from Net Promoter and even my own book to the next level, and we think that'll be a really good read. In terms of tools, have to admit, and we're a bit biased because we're consumed with it, but we're quite impressed with Ning. We looked at a lot of tools out there. You could argue that online community tools are becoming a bit of a commodity, but there are some that have really broken free, so to speak. And Ning, created by former Netscape founder Mark Andreessen, has really not only made it simple, but is bringing functionality that's really bringing consumers, that's bringing community software to life. We've been experimenting at many levels. It's a big piece of the Smart platform, but if you look at the total numbers of Ning communities, there's no question it was a big development in 2008, but that one really jumped out for us, Ning. As videos go, we actually thought that what Tide, P&G's Tide brand did at the Super Bowl was important at a number of levels. First off, they started with a traditional piece of ad copy, but it triggered a user-generated video contest to see if consumers could one-up the the talking stain theme. And what's interesting about that is that consumers took the cue from the Super Bowl ad, went to YouTube, uploaded hundreds of videos, and then they subsequently voted on them, which is what's so cool and beautiful about social media. And ultimately, one of the winning spots ultimately became one of the highest rated TV spots vis-a-vis our IAG rankings. So again, started on the Super Bowl, toggled over to YouTube in the form of user-generated contest. They took the #1 scoring one, went back to the TV platform, ended up getting the high score. Great example of using offline, online, offline. Again, that's what the world's all about. It's about ecosystems, not silos. You know, as corporate blogs go, there's so many great examples out there, and I know there's some debate over whether corporate blogs can be trusted, but there's no question that companies really moved the needle in terms of using their own, in their backyard, content vis-a-vis blog publishing to better connect with consumers. Some of the favorites, I really like what Southwest does. Many may consider it to be hokey, but it really does personify what that brand is all about. Making customers smile, being a little bit off-key at times, but again, that's almost institutionalized in their process. Very authentic, you really sense that the brand's coming through. We also like the Patagonia blog for that very reason. You really feel like the founder's vision is jumping through that narrative. Marriott we like because, again, the CEO is really, the spirit of the CEO is really kind of coming across. So again, there's a lot of innovation in the blogosphere, but those are a few of the highlights.